Hi friends, this is attorney Marina Shepelsky, practicing immigration law for 20 years. I'm doing this video to tell you more about what a consultation would look like with us at our law office when you're filing for a marriage-based green card. When you're married to a US citizen and you want to start the process, and I'm sure you have all the questions about the time frames, when you will get the work permit, the social, what are the documents to prepare, what are the forms you'll need to file, what are the questions you'll get asked at the interview. You can watch this video. It will answer all of your questions. I welcome you to watch, and I welcome you to like our videos and to become a followers of our channel by clicking the little bell below. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Yes.
What are your names, please?
My name is Olga, and
My name's Jacob.
so, yeah.
And who is the U.S. citizen here?
I am.
Okay. Okay, and so Jacob is the U.S. citizen. And where are you from, Olga?
I'm from Russia, Moscow, Russia, and I'm actually in the U.S. As a student. Well, actually, I'm in my grace period because I finished school when 2 weeks ago.
What visa did you use to last enter United States?
I used an F1 student visa to enter the United States in
And when was that?
in August 2013. I actually got one master's degree, then did OPT for a year, and then transferred to a different school and did a second master's degree. Fortunately, I didn't finish my thesis on time because I fell in love.
Got it. So your F1 is almost finished and you're in your grace period.
Yeah.
And Jacob, what kind of work do you do?
I work as an account manager for Hanwha International. We import chemicals from Korea to businesses and manufacturers here in the States. I specifically import inks and coatings industries.
And do you have a bachelor's or a master's degree yourself?
I finished my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. I finished in 2019 in June.
Wait, not 2019. It's 2019 now. 2018.
And that's why you need a wife. To remind you of things like that.
To start a first job, I wanted to make sure I was willing to do anything to make sure I had a place to work. So I put myself out there all around the country, and I found a job here in Teaneck. So I moved out in September 2018, at the end of September. And when I found a place to live, it was a small room in Teaneck. And there were multiple boarders at that house. And when I was looking for different places, and when I came to visit this house, I was actually able to see her, that she was also living there.
Okay.
I was a boarder, and I heard a voice that I didn't know, and when I understood it could be a prospective boarder, I'm just always chatty and nice. I was telling him all the stores that are walking distance, and he listened to it all, and then he said, "That's very good. I have a car." But
And how long did you know each other before getting married?
the day we met physically, we started living together. But that living together...
Well, you were living in the same house where
Exactly.
everybody was
It's
a
a
boarder.
two-story house, and his room would be on the second floor, and mine would be in another corner of the house. And actually, for half a year, we wouldn't even... we'd bump into each other in the kitchen.
Only once in a while.
We'd start talking, and we'd talk for 4 or 5 hours. And then we thought, like, oh, that's nice. He's easy to talk to. But then we'd go our separate ways and not think about it. And then I don't remember when he casually asked for my number. What if you get locked out? And then I thought maybe he'll call me, but he didn't. And then I think a few months later, he texted me saying, "I got a really big box of Korean chicken. Can you help me eat it?" It was a Saturday. And then he said, "Maybe you want to watch some anime with me because I want to have you change your opinion about anime."
I wanted to know if she might like it.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And so starting January, we started watching movies together, and then in March we started dating. But it's more intense than others people dating because you can see the person every day, and you can do shopping together. You can text like, "When are you coming home?" So it's different.
So the process of adjustment of status has two parts to it. The first part, and I guess the more important and primary part, is that Jacob has to file a family or alien relative petition, which is called Form I-130, on your behalf, asking the government to change your status to that of a green card holder. And you can take notes if you'd like.
Okay, thanks.
And I have some paperwork to give you in a minute.
Yeah.
And here's some paper for Jacob,
Okay.
in case he has any questions too,
Sure.
or wants to take some notes.
Sure.
Okay, so the first and primary form is the Form I-130, and the second form that's kind of a recent addition to the process from USCIS is the Form I-130A that actually Olga has to fill out, and it has all the biographical information about yourself and about Jacob, and the biographical information that USCIS looks for is everything about your background, your parents' names and where they live and their dates of birth. All the addresses you've lived in at least the last 10 years. All the jobs you've held, how did you meet each other, some basic stuff like, for example, when did you begin living together? And I guess in your situation, we would have to think about that.
Right.
I would say you started to live with each other in terms of the definition that USCIS implies in March, when you started actually dating and having a relationship.
I would agree there.
You know, because even if you had to mail something, maybe yours would be like room 2 and his would be at room 3, but it would be at the same address.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you were in separate parts of the same property. And so the first part is therefore about the marriage and the relationship, and the whole process is based on USCIS's, I guess, buying or believing the idea that you are married for love and to create a family together, and not for the purpose of Olga fraudulently or by lying obtaining a green card. Because a green card is something that a lot of people really want, and people go to great lengths to get it. And so this whole process is intended to weed out or to filter out people who are not doing this sincerely for marriage and for love and for family reasons.
Right.
Okay. That's the first part, and we will go over the kinds of questions that you will get asked at the interview following up on that whole thing about the biographical information. The second part of this is the adjustment of status part, and that's the part that's represented mainly in the Form I-485, and that is Olga's personal eligibility as an immigrant to the United States for issuance of this, immigrant benefit. Immigrant in U.S. citizenship definitions and immigration laws is somebody who's permanently living to reside in the United States, somebody who's coming to live here permanently. So they will ask you, and I'll get to it in a minute, but they will ask you things like, have you been arrested anywhere in the world? Have you been a good moral character type person? Have you, done anything illegal? And have you transported drugs or weapons or kidnapped anyone or things like that? Okay, so generally speaking, that's the process. While you're waiting for your interview, after you do file all the forms, and we file them concurrently or all in one package, you're also allowed to ask the government for a work authorization in your new status as somebody waiting for an immigrant benefit, right? So we'll file a form called I-765 for the employment authorization. And also, since you have not violated your non-immigrant status or your F1 visa until now, you're in good status, you haven't really violated anything with immigration, we ask for a travel authorization for you. And that's called the Form I-131, and requesting advance parole. And advance parole is once you leave and you want to come back to the United States, the advance parole is the document that the immigration officer right in the airport when inspecting you looks at and says, look, she asked for an advance permission, that's where the word parole is, to come back. And since she's in status and awaiting an immigrant benefit, she's good, she can come back. And that's going to be a separate document. Okay, so we file for all of that in one package of forms. The government fee is $1,760 in total, and that does include the fees for the work authorization, the green card, the family petition, and the advance parole. Okay, what do we need? Just basic stuff from you guys, right? To start this process, we will need both of your passports. If you had other passports that you entered with, we want both the old passport you used to enter the United States and the new passport. We will print out your travel history because now it's available online, and it's called the I-94 travel history, and we will include it with the package because it nicely shows all your exits and entries with your visa from the United States. I'm looking for all your F1 student visa documents because it shows when your status is good through.
So basically all the I-20s.
All the I-20s. And for you, I'm looking for a copy of your birth certificate that shows you were born here. So you are a U.S. born U.S. citizen versus some people that we know who are naturalized U.S. citizens. They acquired citizenship when they came here. You were born here, so I need your U.S. passport. If you have it, if you don't, a U.S. birth certificate will suffice. And I will definitely need IDs from both of you, your government identification with a photograph on it. And for some of our clients, they've been divorced before. For those people, I always ask for divorces. And of course, your marriage license, which is the primary evidence that you even have a right to file for anything with the government, right? So I need your marriage certificate, and we make copies of everything. We never submit any originals for things like that to USCIS, with the exception of arrest records, which I hope you don't have. And we send copies with the forms because it shows that you're eligible on several fronts. There's been a lot of talk lately, and maybe you've read some recent changes in terms of the sponsorship. So again, in the realm of this process, Jacob is the U.S. citizen, and he must be able to sponsor you to live here. What does that mean? He fills out a special form called I-864, Affidavit of Support, where actually the form is a contract with the U.S. government that he promises to support you and prevent you receiving any public benefits in the United States. We don't want to burden the taxpayers with supporting an immigrant because the idea is that we have enough of our own people to support with the taxes that we pay. So he pays taxes, he has enough income to support you and prevent you from getting public benefits such as medical insurance has been a big one. Because he has a job, he can add you as a spouse to his medical benefits. Now you will be covered and you're good to go for this kind of an interview and this kind of process. Also, you know, people who fall into hard times financially, they don't want you filing for welfare or anything like that or public benefits. So for that, we fill out that form, and in support of that form, I ask you to bring a full copy of your tax return for the last tax year, which as of right now, we're in October 2019, the last full year is 2018. So I ask you to bring a full copy, and I'm talking about all the pages, front and back, of all the forms you filed both federally and in the state. I assume it's in New Jersey because you said you live in Teaneck. And also, very important, I need your W-2 form, which is the form that proves how you got your income. Well, you got your income from work. Perhaps some people who do sales get 1099s for commissions and bonuses and things, so I will need that as well. In addition to that, now we know we covered 2019, I need at least the numbers for your total earnings, and I'm only focusing on Jacob here, for 2017 and 2016, because we're looking for numbers for the last 3 years. So you don't have to give me copies, but at least look up your total earnings for 2017 and 16.
As a student?
If you didn't have any, we put a 0.
Okay.
Right, we're honest, and we put a 0.
Okay.
And I do need your pay stubs from now, because now we're in 2019, almost at the end of the year. So I always include about 3 months of pay stubs for your current job. Okay, so that completes the picture of what kind of supporting documents we need. I still take passport-sized photographs from everyone, and although some laws about the I-130 have changed, the adjustment of status forms do require photos. So I will ask you for 2 passport-sized photographs for each of you, and you go to CVS or Walgreens or sometimes photo studios, and you ask for a passport photo, and they know what that means. That means on a white background is the bust picture, which means your top of your shoulders and your face and some space above your head. You're facing the camera. It's on a white background, and your face is not, I ask people not to wear any hats, take off your glasses, things like that. Don't be surprised if they ask for an additional joint sponsor. So if you do need a joint sponsor, we might have to ask maybe like a family member or a good family friend or somebody who's close to you who's willing to take on that responsibility with Jacob to prevent you from going into public benefits. Savings may be used as proof of your ability to financially support Olga. In the first situation where I was going over the income situation, we show income, sufficient income to be a sponsor. In the question you just presented, you can use your assets or your savings to prove that you're a sufficient, high income and assets sponsor. So instead of income, though, as being the primary source, in the second situation, you can rely on your savings and your assets. But you have to present 12 monthly bank statements as proof that you had that amount steadily in your account for at least 12 months. And in that situation, USCIS should be able to take your assets over the income. It's not true that you have to have all your finances together. You should have some together, and you should show that those are the things that you're using every day to live on. So they look for at least one joint bank account. And it doesn't have to be all your bank accounts. It could just be one where you're using it. It's an active live account. It's the kind of thing where if you need groceries, or if you're going to the theater, or if you're taking a bus and you need like a month, you're loading a month of bus fare onto your card, you're using that account. In other words, that's the account you live off. Right? So some people have separate bank accounts and maybe even deposit their their wages into the separate account, but then they transfer to the joint account enough to live on month to month. So you should create a joint account. I'm glad that you did. You could have created a completely different new account, a third account, and you could still do that. You could go to the bank today, pick a bank that you both are comfortable with, set up a joint savings and checking, do both, and start using that account, and you can transfer from your separate accounts into that. I've never had anybody denied in my practice because they have separate accounts and a joint account. Listen, it's understandable. People get married at different stages in their life. We don't want to do anything artificial. That's the whole point of this, to keep things natural and just prove that you're a family. Okay, once we file all the forms and we have all the supporting documents, what happens? Many people want to know what happens. And they're looking at timelines, right? So when we file, within a week or two, we receive confirmation that USCIS has your forms and sends us receipt notices. Receipt notices are important for several reasons. First of all, they have what's called a priority date, or the date you filed your forms, and that date gets used for assessing if things are taking too long, if things are getting processed at the right time, and you can follow your case. And that's the second part that's good about receipt notices. Your cases get assigned case numbers or receipt numbers. Once you have receipt numbers, you can follow their process online on uscis.gov. You can also check processing times, but you always check with your priority date and your receipt number. Also, Olga will receive something new she's never had, which is called an alien number. People who are in the United States and have any kind of possibility of getting in immigrant status or permanent resident status, or people who ask for asylum here, usually get an alien number. So you're going to get an alien number. You already had an alien number, which many people, it might not be you, but it could be you too, had an alien number. We use the alien number to file any new forms. In the same token, if you had a social, Olga, will use the same social. You're not going to get a new social. And social is the social security number. Okay, so once we have the receipt notices for the Form I-130 and the Form I-485 and the Form I-765 for the work authorization and the Form I-131, we're able to track them online. The next thing that will happen, and that might happen 2-3 weeks from the date you receive the notices, is you will be invited on a specific time, at a specific time, on a specific date to do biometrics at a USCIS benefit center. So that's the place where they collect your biometrics, which is a photograph and your fingerprints, and you need to have valid ID to take that. So you have to bring your, usually Russian passport that's not expired is the best form of ID. Once you have your biometrics completed, it's pretty much a wait game. Please be patient. Currently, from the filing date to the interview date, based on where you live, and you live in New Jersey, it might take 1 year to a year and a half to go from the date of filing to an actual physical interview date. You will be interviewed. And when you get interviewed, they will question you on the marriage and the details of how you met, where you met, who introduced you, who lives where, who lived where, your jobs, and all the biometrics and the biographical information you already had in the forms. And also question Olga, kind of separately, but in your presence, about her personal eligibility, where they go through the security questions and the anti-terrorism questions and the eligibility questions to see if you are okay to get a green card, if you're a good moral person, a person who doesn't have convictions, and so on.
Sounds good.
After that, once you get scheduled for an interview, and that's the point where we start to kind of gather all the paperwork together and organize you for your interview. While you're waiting for the interview to be scheduled, it might be a year in some cases or more, you don't just do nothing. There is something for you to do. You have homework to do. And your homework will be to collect joint documents. Joint documents, or sometimes they're called bona fides, or bona fide documents, are proof of a bona fide marriage, meaning they're looking for proof that your marriage is real through proof that you're mixing both your incomes and your profits together and spending money together. So they follow a certain list that's in the policy manual, but for you, I'm going to explain in very simple terms. You have to have a joint bank account, what we already discussed. It's the kind of bank account that should have money coming in and out. It should have activity every month. You should have at least one utility bill, and that's major utilities like electricity or gas or something like that with 2 names listed on the bill. What does that mean? It's ideal if it has Jacob, space Olga, space your last name. You don't have to change your last name if you were going to ask me the question. You could if you want. Again, we're keeping this natural. Some people want to change their last name, and I can put in the forms the new last name or the married last name. That's the last name you will have on your green card. But think hard, because that last name will be different from the name on your Russian passport. So when you travel, you will have to bring your marriage certificate and proof that you're living with your husband sometimes to show you're the same person as on the green card and in the passport. Okay. Other than having a joint utility account, I ask you to collect evidence and save it in a folder somewhere of any joint trips together. Major joint purchases together. Think of it ahead. Plan. If you're going to buy a couch in IKEA, see if you can have both names listed as maybe people who are getting the delivery or even the customer. It would be good. And I know it's sometimes a little bit of a hassle because honestly, in the real world, we don't do that. We only put one person's name. But again, planning for this process that does have, as I mentioned, some artificial elements to it, have both names on as many documents as possible. And that's as simple as I can explain it. Have both names, Olga, Jacob, first names I'm talking about, on as many papers as you can to have jointly. Photographs, very important. And nowadays everybody has photos on their phones. Not good enough. We will have to print them out. So put together a good photo album of pictures from when you met and dated, from the wedding, after the wedding, your married life together, and almost up to the date of the interview. Pictures are very important. Sometimes a couple will only have the pictures, and that's good enough because you can tell people have a life together, but for financial reasons, might not have enough joint documents together.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Other than that, any travel itineraries, any tickets to plays or anything like that, any trips together, some people have joint Costco cards, some people have joint gym cards, some people have joint membership to like the Birds Conservatory Society or anything like that. Whatever you like is fine, as long as it's PG-13, and it could be in 2 names. And we save things like that. Because we're going to take them to your interview as proof of your joint life together. So if we wait for a year or a year and a half for such an interview, by the time you have the interview, you might have a big stack of joint documents or the bona fides to take with you to the interview. We prepare copies and originals. By the way, it would be good to add Olga to any job benefits that you can. For example, medical insurance that I mentioned. Any corporate benefit like disability accounts, listing her as a next of kin or an heir or like a beneficiary. Those forms are very helpful in the process. Keep copies of forms like that. If you have joint medical insurance cards, we will make a copy for the interview. If you have, I don't know, anything from work like a optical benefits card, like eyeglasses card, and you have 2 names on them, we make a copy. If you get invited to a wedding and it says Olga and Jacob so-and-so, we make a copy and we keep it for the interview. And make a nice accordion folder. Buy one at Staples or order it on Amazon, whatever you like. It could be a cute Japanese anime themed one. It doesn't matter. As long as it has the different pockets, that makes it super easy to like put the categories in. Like for example, one could be for utility bills. One could be for your joint trips. One could be for your credit card statements.
How valuable are sworn affidavits from friends and family? Are they important? Should we? But we don't want to bug people. But is it better to?
I know it's listed in the manual for USCIS, but in practice, because I'm a practicing attorney, I find they have very little evidentiary value.
Okay.
Which means in this early stage of the process, the focus is more on tax returns, joint leases, joint utility bills, joint trips, and other joint documents to show you living together. The sworn statements are more important for the later process, which is called the removal of conditions, that you will have to deal with once you have your first green card, the 2-year conditional green card for 2 years, and you'll be looking to file for the 10-year green card. That's when they're required. Here, they're not even required. So you don't have to bug your family and friends. However, some practitioners, some of my colleagues insist on them for the interview, not now.
Yeah, for the interview. Okay.
Yes, it's up to you. Most of my clients don't have them, and they pass the interview with flying colors.
Okay, that
because they have other more important documents. A sworn statement can always be fidgeted with.
Exactly.
You can't do much with a utility bill.
Exactly. Yeah. And last question. So when we file for an what's it called? Advanced parole. Do I need a reason to stay to go to Russia, or is adjustment of status enough of a reason?
I usually put down a trip that you might be planning 2 months from now on my forms. You might not want to go, or you might go at a later date, and that is why I check off the box that says multiple trips, because you don't know.
Okay.
But I think you should have a trip listed.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.